Hi guys, welcome back to our video. In this video, we gotta do a oil change, a simple oil change, and also the oil filter. As we can see that the oil filter is inside, and then the drain block should be somewhere here. So first thing first, we need to remove this skid plate. Okay, so we took up the skid plate and just put it one side, out of the way. And these are the bolt that is onto the skid plate. So there are two drain bolts. One is this should be the oil pan, and then this is from the crankcase. You notice that this one doesn't have an oil sump because this is a dry sump unit on the Super Tenere. So you have to release this and then follow by this. So before we start, we just need to warm up the engine on a little bit. So we just turn on the engine for roughly 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, no need to be too hot because later on you can't hold the bolt with your finger because it's too hot. So we just turn it off. The next step is to open up this drain cap. Okay, so it's easier to drain later on. So I just need to open it up. Okay, loosely. Alright, so what we need to do now is to release this bolt, the one at the rail, then followed by the front. So it's a 12mm socket. Loosen, and then we loosen here as well. Okay, we will loosen it until it's more or less hand loose. So we put a cardboard at the base, so in case it leaks, it doesn't dirty the floor. See, there's this little window here on most of the bigger bike where you can see oil level and also the color of the oil, because we just started the engine, so the engine all went up. So here it's quite empty. Okay, so right now you just need to ensure that your right hand or whichever hand that you are unscrewing this, be able to cope the drain plug, because once it drops inside the pan, it's quite hard to find. Okay, we can see that it's quite black, the oil. So we just wait for it to drip. At the same time, we just clean up the bolt. We will just wait until that is dripping, something like that. We will call it almost done. I mean, you can't be completely 100% dry, so we clean up the bolt and then we inspect it. So what we need to do is just put it back to stop the drip. And then now we move on to the crankcase bolt. So we will see that is there any oil coming out from here. Wow, quite a lot. And then same thing, we just clean the drain port. Okay, so same thing, once it's dripping, instead of a whole solid stream, is ready to be put back. So all we need to do is just put it back. Okay, so if you wish to drain more, you felt that okay, maybe the dripping is not enough, you can actually put it on a side stand if your bike have a main stand, and then just open the drain plug again to drain it out. We see how much more we can get. Actually, it's quite significant, as you can see. Okay, so now see how much oil it will flow out on the oil bay. Okay, also quite significant. So we just wait for it to drip, and then before we tighten everything back. The next thing we want to do will be the removal of the oil filter. So it's pretty tight. There are proper tools where you can clamp on the top here and then to wrench it out. We don't have that proper tool, so what we gotta do is we gotta punch a hole and then twist it out. So we gotta use a screwdriver, preferably a crosshead, because it's easier to punch through. But we only have this at this moment, and then a mallet or hammer if you have it. Anything that can drive screwdriver through the oil filter. Something like that. The oil will start leaking once it pierces through, so we just prepare the oil pan to capture the drip, and then all we need to do is just continue driving it into the core. It's not very hard because it's aluminium and there's paper filter in the middle. So we drive it through the whole oil filter, and then you can use this as a lever to push it. Okay, this thing is a little bit over top, so basically we can't move. We don't want to break this small driver that we have, so what we gotta do is we gotta replace a bigger one and then drive it through again and see whether you can torque it up. So seems like this oil filter is over top. We have to come up with another way to get it done. Okay, after we use some WD-40 around it here, okay, managed to turn it out. This is either overly torqued or no grease is applied through the seal, so it's jammed here, and then we can just take it out. So we'll just put the oil filter here and let it sort of like drip out. Also wait for here to drip off. Okay, so while waiting for the oil filter to drip clean, we will use this third-party oil filter that fits into the Tenere. So we can see that this is the OEM and then this is the third-party one. It's just slightly shorter, but it fits. So what we want to do here is to remove the seal. We have to apply oh, it's already pre-applied. So they have some grease here, which is already pre-applied, which is good. Okay, so if you wish to, this is optional, you can pour in some engine oil to soak the oil filter in advance. Best is to use the engine oil to grease the seal, but this one comes already pre-greased, so which is good by the manufacturer. So before we mount in the oil filter, just make sure that it's the seal, this rubber seal, is perfectly aligned flat inside the groove, because you don't want to screw in and damage it and then it causes leak. So what we need to do next is just to put this in and ensure it's straight before we start screwing in, because you also don't want to over thread this thing. So just hand tighten. Okay, don't need to be too tight. So as long as it's hand tightened, it's good enough. So you don't want it to be overly tight like this one that we have to bend one of our toes to get it out. So all good. Okay, so right now, more or less everything is in place. This is just 7 Newton meters, so basically just hand tightened. And this 2 drain bolt is basically 20 Newton meter. We don't have a torque wrench here to measure, but generally we just hand tight, something like that. Don't need to use a lot of strength. Because 20 Newton meter is not very high torque. So basically you just need to ensure it's tight, it's good enough. And then next we will just fill in the oil. So usually the machine will state how much oil you need for every oil change, but because we also change the oil filter, then it becomes slightly more, because you also need some oil to be filled in the oil filter. So this is already removed, and then we bought the oil that has this little small funnel. If it doesn't have it, then you have to pour in manually, but the one we got has this small funnel. Some brands, the funnel are quite huge that it doesn't fit in. This is a micro, super small, which is good. So all we need to do is just add it in, and then just do the same to all the rest. So we almost got 3 liters in. So before we carry on the last bottle, so basically we want to check if everything is in place, nothing is leaking in the process. Okay, it looks all good before we carry on. Okay, we are also checking the glass window, see if we can see any oil coming out from that level. Basically, this is the minimal, this is the maximum. We want to be somewhere in between. Okay, so we will continue to fill the last bottle, and then at the same time monitor the window and see what will happen. Okay, as we can see just now, because the light wasn't on, so we can't really tell. But now with the light on, you can see that it's filled with oil already. So what we gotta do now is to cover this cap up, and then we will start the engine. So once we start the engine, we should be drawing oil all the way up to the engine, other parts of it. We should see the oil level starts dropping, and then we will decide whether we should continue to fill or it's good enough. Okay, now we can see that it's empty because everything is being drawn up. So now we just turn off the engine and then we wait for the oil to flow back down, and then we will know whether we should top up more or just good enough. Okay, so obviously it's not enough. We should continue add on more engine oil. Okay, you can see that it's moving up, so more or less it's okay. We will start the engine again and then see how it goes. So we just added the last 100 ml in, and then to correct the end, and it's still within the marking, so it's fine. So all you need to do is just tighten this. So the cap don't need to be too tight, as long as it's good enough to build pressure, it doesn't spill out, it's fine. Okay, so right now all we need to do is just clean up all the tools because it's pretty oily just now, and then we gotta fill the old oil back to the bottle. Okay, so for easy refilling back, you can remove the whole cap instead of using the funnel. It's easier to pour in. This is the old engine oil bottle, so same thing, it has the funnel, so all you need to do is just pull it out. Okay, and then use this to pour into here. So the purpose of collecting back the old oil into the smaller bottle is basically for disposal. These are quite harmful if you just throw it into the drain or put it into the landfill. What you can do here is you can return to any workshop or the workshop that you usually visit to do recycling. So before we finalize and put back the skid plate, we just want to ensure there's no leakage. Basically, just now we already start the engine, we already do some reffling, so it should build some pressure inside. So if there's any leakage, that means it's not tightened. Just want to ensure there's no leakage by touching around and see if there is any oil stain or oil droplet coming out. Alright, so it looks good, so no leakage, no seeping through, so all good. So we will install the skid plate back and job done. Alright guys, thank you for watching this video. See you on the next one. Bye bye.